On this episode of Hockey Inside Out, we discuss some trade rumors and hopefully create a few of our own. We're back with your favorite weekly internet hockey show, or at least one of them, featuring Stu Cowan, Chris Nilan, and from the Athletic Montreal, Marc Dumont. Thanks for joining us again, Marc. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. Much appreciated.
Okay, let's take a look at what we're going to be talking about on today's show. Number 1, are Carey Price and Shea Weber on the trading block? Number 2, if the Canadiens trade Price, is Charlie Lindgren ready to be a number 1 goalie? Number 3, can you see the Canadiens trading captain Max Pacioretty? Number 4, is the playoff dream dead for the Habs this season? And number 5, was Saturday's 6-0 loss to the Leafs the beginning of the end for Marc Bergevin? Let's start the show. With the Canadiens inching toward the point of no return when it comes to not making the playoffs and the team playing better without Carey Price than with him, is it too hard to imagine Marc Bergevin sitting in his office, sweating through a pair of perfectly ironed checkered Armani pants with his hand over the panic button? Not for me, but that could be because I'm really into fashion. Are Carey Price and Shea Weber on the trading block?
I don't know if they're on the trading block, but I think at this point Marc Bergevin has to be listening to any kind of offer coming his way. I mean, this team is in a total mess. You have a goalie who's been lower body injury, minor lower body injury, a year away from going into a 8-year, $84 million contract. A defenseman, I mean, Shea Weber's, I don't see how he can continue carrying the load he's carried so far right through January. They're going to kill him by that time. But I think at this point, Marc Bergevin is listening to anything. Is he throwing them out there? I don't know. But is he listening to any kind of offers for anybody? I would certainly think so at this point.
I think it's hard to imagine. Those are the two guys I don't see moving. I see everyone else except also throw Gallagher in there because he's really become the heart and soul of this team. But Shea Weber's his guy that he went out and he traded his blue chip defenseman for. And Carey Price is yet to play a single game of his mega contract, right? So those are two guys that I really see staying with the team for the time being. But like Stu said, you got to listen, right? We all know Marc Bergevin is the busiest GM in the league. He talks a lot. I don't know if he's going to make a deal with those particular players.
But trades are hard.
Trades are very hard.
Yeah, they're hard depending on who you want to get. But I think this owner, first and foremost, has to realize the situation he's in and what direction he's going to go. Because do you let the general manager make these trades if this team is going to go into a rebuild? Are you going to use this general manager to do that? That's, I think, what we're going to look at. Is he going to allow him to make trades? You could make a bad situation a whole lot worse here with the wrong moves at the wrong time. Listen, the situation this team is in right now is not a good one, and they obviously, I think, everybody has to be on the trading block. Everybody. You can't not say that, I wouldn't trade this guy, I wouldn't trade that guy, the way things are right now.
That's a good point. You say it'd be interesting to see if Molson just lets the season play out and at the end of the year decide what he's going to do. But like with Shea Weber, you wonder, like, how happy is Shea Weber here right now? Like, here's a guy who never wanted to come to Montreal. He was happy in Nashville. He had the perfect life in Nashville, and this world was pulled out from under his feet. So this is nobody in that room is happy right now. And as Brendan Gallagher showed, smashing his stick against the goalpost after the loss in Dallas.
Do you think he's having a bit of buyer's remorse considering where the team is at with Price and Weber? I mean, these are two players in their 30s that are signed on to 2026 or some ridiculous.
They're not going to get better going forward. I mean, it's just how gradually will they decline. I mean, Carey Price is not going to be the goalie he was who won the Hart Trophy and the Vezina Trophy again. It's time. Nobody beats Father Time. It's the fact of life.
It'd be okay if they had a supporting cast, right? But they don't have a real good supporting cast.
I don't think he has buyer remorse in the sense that these are two guys that are still perceived as being amongst the best at their position, right? So even if Carey Price will slow down, which he will, I think elite goalies can keep playing at a decent level. Look at Henrik Lundqvist. With defensemen, it's a little different. They tend to drop off that hill a little quickly. But around the NHL, these two are still perceived as the best. And you could, if you're going to make the moves, now is the time.
There's a lot of other teams who would be interested in both of them, I would think, too.
Absolutely.
The contracts are a little...
I still think you'd be able to find people to eat that contract, both contracts, very easily.
Okay. Do you think if they do trade Price, Charlie Lindgren is ready to be a number one goalie now?
Listen, he better be. Again, would he be better off in the American League right now playing? I think so, as a starter. But he's here. He's getting his awesome opportunity. And if Price comes back, I'd like to see him go back there, and I'm sure he will. And the Emmy will back up, and maybe back-to-back games you bring him up and play him. But I think he could use a good season down there. There's a lot of pressure playing goaltender in this town, especially the way things are. He's done well. There's no question about it. But I'd like to see him spend the whole season down there, and too much too fast sometimes can hurt a goaltender.
I think he can handle that pressure, though. The way he bounced back, back-to-back games, hitting in 5 goals, getting pulled, then he played really well in Dallas. You can't. I think he's ready. I mean, he's an athletic goalie. He doesn't have the rebound control that Carey Price does. A lot of rebounds end up in front of him, but he's so athletic and acrobatic. He stays him, and he's a confident kid. I mean, when you talk with him in the room, he's confident, he's calm. He seems to be able to handle everything that comes with being a goalie with the Montreal Canadiens at the age he is. So I think he's ready, but as Chris said, it never hurts to have another a year in the minors without all that pressure. But I think he is ready to play in the NHL if they need him to.
I think you have to look at his whole body of work here. This season in the AHL, he was actually struggling. His save percentage was under 900. Now, he was playing behind a fairly weak defense, but the same can be said for Montreal, right? So if they get rid of Carey Price and Charlie Lindgren's your number one goalie, I think you're headed for the basement of the NHL. And that's not a dig at Charlie Lindgren. I just don't think that he's ready to Carey Price this team, you know what I mean? Put it on his back and carry it.
It's a big load to handle.
Yeah, especially with this defense. And if we're talking about trading guys, making the team even weaker, it's a ticket to a really high first-round pick, which might not be a bad thing for the Montreal Canadiens right now.
But think about if they did, what they would get for Carey Price if they did get rid of him. Do you see him maybe going to Edmonton for Talbot and Draisaitl? That's reading a bit about that as a potential possibility.
Edmonton needs defensemen right now.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a column this week about speculating that it's possible only because Edmonton has centers and the Habs need centers, and Edmonton is struggling in goal.
They need everything.
They need everything. And the Oilers are worse than the Canadiens. They're off to, and there was a lot higher expectations for the Oilers this season than there were for the Canadiens. So that's why I can see some speculation with those two teams.
Okay.
I think you need to restock the cupboard if you're going to trade a guy like Price or Weber. The Canadiens need more prospects and more picks, because this isn't a retool situation in my opinion. You'd have to, if you're going to do this, commit, go rebuild. Do it like the Toronto Maple Leafs. Obviously, they got gifted one of the best players in the league. That's hard to do.
And they got lucky. Austin Matthews doesn't come up every draft.
And one of the reasons they got Austin Matthews is because they traded away Phil Kessel for a bag of chips, right? Like, it wasn't a great trade, but it led them to getting one of the best players in the NHL. So, a little luck involved could help them, could make them go a long way. But I just don't see getting a 25, 26-year-old guy would help them right now. I think if you're going to go down that road, tear it all down.
Do you see the Canadiens ever trading Pacioretty?
Listen, there's a good possibility. The contract, okay? Mm-hmm. There was a time Bergevin said he couldn't trade that contract. I mean, it's too good. $4.5 million, the return you're getting for that money. I think he's got to throw that out the window now. And you got to look at Max's future. When it comes time to sign a contract here, Max is going to want $8.5, $9 million, something like that, in that ballpark. And I don't believe the Canadiens will give it to him, considering Price and Weber's contracts. It's a little much.
It'd be interesting to see what the trade market would be, what you would get in exchange for Pacioretty.
Teams would be lining up, in my opinion.
I think if you put Max Pacioretty on another team with a legitimate number one center, without the captaincy and the weight of being captaincy of the Montreal Canadiens, I mean, he's a 30-goal scorer here without a number one center. You put him on a team, you put him in the situation Radulov is in now. If you put him in Dallas playing with Ben and Seguin, it's 40 goals automatic, it would seem. So it'd be interesting to see what they could get back for him, and I think there would be a pretty good return.
I'm with Chris on this one. The same reason they wanted to keep that contract desperately is the same reason that if you're going to do this, go for it now. You don't get a better value contract except for maybe Nikita Kucherov in the NHL right now. I know he's struggling, but goals are so hard to come by in the NHL nowadays, and that's what Max Pacioretty does. He's a volume shooter, so he's still going to get goals. He's not going to decline immediately. This isn't a Thomas Vanek situation where he's picking his shots. Mm-hmm. He shoots a ton, and a little puck luck would go a long way to getting him more goals right now. But yeah, the contract is the reason. I think if you're going to trade him, do it now.
He's one of the handful of players in the NHL at the beginning of the season. Max Pacioretty is going to score 30 goals. Yeah, it's a given, and that's even if on a team that hasn't been that great.
Even this team, if they wouldn't trade him, I still think he'll end up getting to 30 goals.
The Canadiens will need 39 wins going forward, and there was 60 games left to make the play.
Yeah, well, 77 points or 76 points, whatever it is. Yeah,
Easy.
60 games.
Is the playoff dream dead for the Canadiens this year?
Pretty much. I mean, they always, they say U.S. Thanksgiving is the date you can sort of tell if teams are going to make it or not. And there's no reason to believe this team is going to drastically improve going forward. They are what they are, and it's not a very good hockey team. I mean, now it's like how low are they going to finish and how high of a draft pick are they going to get? But I don't see how they turn this around. They can't score. I mean, they rank right at the bottom or near the bottom in offense, defense, penalty killing, power play,
but other than that, I mean,
they're terrible at everything. But apart from that, everything's good.
They're number one in shots.
That's it. Number one in shots. That's true. That's true. Number one in shots and goal, but they got no guys who can put the puck in the net.
I think the only chance is Carey Price coming back and just dominating, right? And with his recent injury issues, I don't know if that's possible. But as we've seen with Charlie Lindgren, he's not playing badly. Mm-hmm. But he needs to have a shutout nowadays to actually win a game.
And Carey Price can't score, neither can Charlie Lindgren. It's like you can lose 2-1 with Charlie Lindgren or Carey Price.
So I think you need essentially Price to come back and be a hero. I don't see it happening right now. I think statistically they have a 20% chance of making it. So
your best players need to be your best players on the majority of nights in the NHL, and the Canadiens don't have that. I look at Alex Galchenyuk has gotten an opportunity now that everybody's been clamoring for. He hasn't done anything. Pacioretty, Drouin, the big trade for Drouin, he hasn't done. Again, he's a winger playing center. Those three together, it's terrible. It's tough to watch.
Well, Drouin has one goal in his last 15 games after the game in Dallas. He's winning like 40% of his faceoffs.
Transitioning to center is a tough thing to do in the NHL. You're basically bringing in a guy that you pinned all your hopes and dreams on, and you're telling him not only are you going to be the next French superstar, you're going to play center all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. The last time I saw him take a faceoff in center, it wasn't when it was with McKinnon. It was once McKinnon left. So you're going back to the Halifax days. You have a center playing wing and a winger playing center right now on that line. Go figure.
Yeah, it's a mess. I mean, it's as I said, Drouin's in a. I mean, you see the skills he has and everything, but it's not working. It's not happening.
But like Chris said, the best players aren't being the best players right now. If everyone would follow Gallagher's lead, maybe they'd have a chance. But Pacioretty's not scoring when they need him. Drouin has one goal in the last 13, 14 games. Yeah.
Why do you think that is, though? These are good players. Do you think it's a confidence issue, a lack of chemistry among teammates?
I think pod chemistry, but you look at a line is usually built centerman, playmaker, good on face-offs, a big winger who can go in and get the puck, and a guy who's pretty good offensively. And here you have three guys kind of.
And they all want the puck.
Yeah, and it's not good. And they're not good. And again, the guys who are the best players are complementary players. Byron, Gallagher, Shaw.
And they're not
guys
finishers.
Who show up every night.
And they're not finishers, which goes back to all the shots they're getting.
But they're complementary players and guys that can lead. And those are your best guys every night, not the guys who get paid like the best players.
They're also the three of the most physical guys, and they're the three smallest guys on the team.
And they're not afraid to take some lumber going to the net.
Yeah.
Do you think Saturday night's 6-0 loss to the Leafs would mark the beginning of the end for Marc Bergevin in this town?
I don't know about that. It seems like Mr. Molson really likes this guy, and I certainly understand why, his personality, some of the things he's done. I'm sure Mr. Molson doesn't like, but the proof is in the pudding, and I think he's been a little bit passive. He did some things in the summer here. I think if he had a do-over the way things are now, he'd like to maybe do it over. He's in a tough situation, but I don't know. It depends where Mr. Molson stands with him. And my estimation, I say they're pretty good, but you just never know. There might come a point where he has to do something he really doesn't want to do.
My lasting memory from Bergevin this offseason when he stood at the news conference and he said, I've made final offers to Markov and Radulov. First come, first serve.
It was the worst bluff.
It was like first come, first serve. And I'm thinking if those two guys are at home watching it, they're going, really? Yeah. And then he lost both of them. Like, how do you allow? It was sort of like first come, first serve. I'll never forget that line. And you're going, wow. And then he got none of them. And they really missed both of those guys. And now they start the season $8.5 million under the cap as a result because he didn't really have a plan B if those guys didn't sign. And that's the mess.
Hockey players, and Chris would have a better idea of this than I do, want to feel wanted, right? Especially when you give blood, sweat, and tears to a team like Markov did. you get that feeling that, and Emlyn said it yesterday when he spoke to Arpin Vasu. He was saying, Markov is sad right now in Russia. Like, he's upset of how this ended. He wanted to stay with his team. So you get that feeling of, I've given you my entire career, and now, you're kind of wavering. I get why Bergevin didn't want to give them all the money in the world. Markov is old, but he's still very, very good. So to me,
he didn't have Plan B, though.
That's the thing. It was a terrible bluff, and I'm with Stu on this one. If he gets fired, I don't think he will. I think Mr. Molson really likes him. It'll be the offseason where he was just too tentative. He bluffed with 2 and a 7, and he got called, right, by both players. And Radulov said the same thing. He wanted to feel wanted. Yeah. He liked that.
I don't buy the Radulov thing. To me, he's full of it. All he does is suck up to the fans. I love the fans. It's all about the fans. Listen, Bergevin wanted him when no one else did. And for a little more money, he left. I don't buy that. He didn't feel wanted. He went for the money, bottom line.
But I think most of Bergevin underestimated just the value that Radulov had to this team. Just the spark he provided in the room,
but
out of the
I don't
room.
buy the song and dance from Radulov. He blows a lot of smoke. and listen, I love the guy on the ice. I do. He's an awesome player. And Craig Ludwig said it the other day. He drags everybody else into the fight.
He's always intense.
He does it.
Always
does it with his personality, the way he plays, and no question. But I don't buy all the other stuff. Don't pay attention to that man behind the curtain.
I missed that guy. That's our show for this week. If you like the video, tell your friends about it, and also click the little like button at the bottom of the screen. Subscribe if you haven't already. What are your thoughts on the topics that we discussed today? We want to hear from you. My name's Adam Susser. I'll see you next Thursday.